The last mission. The coolest part about the last mission... Oh, also get Amazing Chocobo and some others, which are easy, okay. The cool thing about the last mission is that it's technically the last part of the story we ever hear. And what I mean by that is that there's that will where you hear the audio of like Yuna and Tidus like 2 years later after the events of 10-2. So 2 years after 10-2, and you know he's a blitzball player and all this stuff. Well, I read some translations. There was multiple translations I had to read of there's an what is it called? Final Fantasy X 2.5, and it's basically it's just like a story that you read. It was written by Kazushige Nojima, the writer of the games. He wrote it. Oh yeah, the audio drama no one accepts as canon. Oh no, it's canon, and I accept it as canon. I accept that. I don't know actually about the poem that I'm going to describe to you that was written by Kazushige Nojima, but that will is totally canon, and it's setting up something. Whether it be a video game or another book, who really knows? But Square, they want to make a 10. They're interested, but they're busy right now. That poem. So it's about. Let me try to quite remember here. So the ending cutscene when Tidus meets Yuna on the beach at 10-2, and then they meet up with Waka and Lulu, and he shows off Vidina and stuff like that. It's that cutscene, but it goes on after that. So they have more extensive conversations, not too much, on the beach, Waka and Tidus, and it's got this weird thing going on where the people of Besaid, they're very protective of Yuna, and they think of Tidus as someone who may be a threat, and this is like right off the bat. This is immediately like at that cutscene. So things are off already. What is it? Everyone goes back to the town. The people are surrounding Yuna because, you know, she hasn't been there for quite a while. She's been hunting for Tidus, really, like trying to find him, and then got sidetracked by Vagn again. They smother her, and from the distance, like, they look at each other, Tidus and Yuna, and she like mouths to him, "I'm sorry, we'll do this later." And so Tidus goes off with Waka. They catch up on a few things with the Aurochs, and there's this guy there. I can't remember his name. Oh, fucking A. I cannot remember his name, but there's this off type of character who's not originally from Besaid. He knows everything about Tidus. That he's from the dream world and stuff like that. And Tidus the thing is that this doesn't come into play a little bit later. Anyways, he's with the Aurochs, they're catching up. They're at the beach, and they're going off and they're doing some work. I think that they're doing some things, and by the time it gets to sunset, the Tidus and the Aurochs and everyone else, they go work at the pier to pick up some fish coming from a boat. Before that happens, Waka shows Tidus his new boat. That's a piece of shit, shabby little thing. He takes the team out into deeper waters so they can do extensive practice. And they make it a point to tell you that the reason why the Aurochs suck so much is because they've been training in shallow waters. And so they take the boat, this piece of shit boat out there, and they do some training. That's what they do before they go work. So earlier in the day, they go out in the water, and they're training in deep water, and they're actually getting better, and Tidus takes note of that. He's like, "Oh, wait, you guys are good." Haha, classic Aurochs. I know, right? So, and then they get back, and they start, they wait for that boat to come with the fish, and they start unloading. and stuff like that. And that guy I mentioned earlier, that weird guy that seems to know everything about Titus, he's with them. They're working and stuff. It gets to a point where somehow Titus and this guy end up alone, right? And they're just chilling. It's like nighttime, and the guy's just curious. He's like, "Hey, what does he say first to Titus?" He asks him if he's the guardian that helped Yuna. Yeah. Oh, what happened? What is it? The discussion is very confrontational from the guy to Titus. So, what? It's some pretty deep ass shit that I never even thought about, though. I cannot remember it. Yeah, he basically says, yeah, you're, are you the one who killed Unaleska? Something about Micah being an unsent. He knew this. Which it might be common knowledge. It's not quite specified. But what's definitely not common knowledge or knowledge to anyone, really, is that Titus is actually a dream, and he's been brought back, and he's wondering, like, so, like, are you real, or are you still a dream? And Titus takes offense to it, and, like, along the lines of something, fuck, I cannot remember. This is juicy. It is juicy. So, hold on. I gotta find something quick. I gotta find it. 2.5. Here, I'm also going to do this. I'm going to give you the link, actually, to the story. That's it. Thing is, it's not even completed. It's not completed, and there's no actual, like, concrete translations. It's not even that well known in Japan, even. Like, people don't like it in Japan either. I kind of like it. Like you said, it's juicy. It is. It also does come off a little bit like, kind of comes off like a fan fiction, but it's not. It's not a fan fiction. It was written by the guy who made the games, or wrote the games. And, yeah. So, he's having a conversation with him about that. Confronts him and blah, blah, blah. I can't quite remember what happens after that. Titus talks to Waka about not extensively to everything that was said between that guy, but he asked about the guy, and he said you should probably watch him or whatever. I think something like that. And there's I think it's like the next day. There's a big event. Yuna's there, and he's really trying to get to talk to her because he only talked to her when they first got back together the day before. The ending cutscene of 10-2. So that was yesterday. He cannot talk to her, period. The people of Besaid are, like, going out of their way to make sure that he can't, because they're requesting her attention, like, ridiculously. And it's strange. They have some more scenes with Riku and Pain talking to Titus and stuff. Now, I forget what it is. I think it's hinted that Pain might have a crush on Titus, because she just kind of stares at Titus, like stares at him, and he's like, are you okay or whatever, and this weird stuff. Riku, she's really buddy. Gives him a little bit of crap, Titus, about, like, I think something about Yuna. and then says something about herself. I can't quite remember the details of it. Goes on. He is at this point he's getting really cranky with people. He gets cranky with Riku. He just gets frustrated, not at Riku, and Riku thinks that he's frustrated at her. I'm pretty sure that's not what the case is. I'm pretty sure that he's just frustrated about the fact that he's been trying to talk to Yuna this whole time, and he can't. He just can't. Some things happen, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to skip a little bit. Because the story does branch off into the events of the Bavel-Zanarkand War. In the Bavel-Zanarkand War, names. I can't tell you much because I don't remember the names. I think what it is, it's like a love triangle. This person, which is a male, and a female, which is a different person, and then another male. Honestly, like, I couldn't tell you quite so much about that part, except for the end and how it ties in together. But this is events that are happening 1,000 years in the real world, and not the dream world, but 1,000 years ago in the real world, these events transpired. One was a summoner. Now, back in the day, summoners were much different from the summoners today. Summoners also did other things. They had other, like, titles and responsibility. Culture was different. Let's see. Let me go back here real quick. What was it? It was more like war and defense for summoners. So soldiers, pretty much almost. And then some side branches of summoners that did other things. So it was very prominent. And that's the reason Vegnagun was created, was to destroy the summoners' aeons and stuff like that, and just, you know, bring an end to everything. Because the Machina wasn't cutting it, apparently. Oh my god, this is my shit. This is what I wanted them to make a prequel game about. Not fucking Jacked. That's Final Fantasy. They might as well just add that stuff into 10.3. I do want a prequel with Jacked and R and all that stuff. Yeah, Braska. Anyways, yeah, so the war, summoners, Machina, 1,000 years ago, Vegnagun, then Sin. So yeah, that's happening. That side story, and it gets a little more hectic where there's betrayals, I guess, between the female and her original male love interest, and the two men, I think, were acquaintances of some sort. I can't be for sure exactly. Anyways, I think it's some time passes by later. So, like, we're back in Spira, Tidus's thing. I don't know exactly how long. It might even be that same night. Yuna sees Tidus across the way, and she's like, hey, we'll meet, I promise you, she's mouthing it from a distance, and he understands, like, tonight, I promise you, tonight. And then Tidus goes off and he talks to Lulu and Waka and Riku, I think. Riku and Pain, they were like, Riku got so pissed off at Tidus because she thought that he was mad at her, but really Tidus was frustrated he can't talk to Yuna. She was so mad about that she's like, you know what, we're going back to the ship, screw this. And so she takes Pain, they go back up to the ship with Brother on the Celsius, and they're flying around. Or they're floating. They're just floating. They're not in the water or anything. They're just floating the whole time. Or flying around. Just the island. And so they went up there. So Tidus goes and talks to Lulu and Waka. I think Lulu is the one who is kind of teasing about the fact, like, don't just because you think you're going to be alone with Yuna, don't think that anything's going to happen between you two. Yuna's still, and she's talking about sex. And then Waka laughs about it, blah, blah, blah. They have more conversations about catching up, and then I think Titus brings up to Waka and Lulu actually at the same time about the conversation he had with the guy last night about how he had a weird feeling about it. Like it doesn't feel like he belongs, period. Like to this island feels like he has intentions. Because the way he confronted Titus about it, and the way he's been his demeanor has been since he's arrived to the village. People, even Lulu took notice of this before Titus showed up. Like right before Titus showed up, she noticed that because she knows everything that's going on in the village. It's a small village. And so they acknowledge that, and some events happen. I think there's like a celebration, a feast around the village, and then nighttime comes, and what happens? Where do they meet up? Titus and Yuna are finally after reading a while, you're like, when am I going to be able to see these two talk to each other? It's like nighttime. I can't remember exactly where they meet up. Oh. Titus waits for Yuna on that little ship, the Aurochs ship, the little dinghy that's docked. And he waits for her there. And she shows up, and she has like this cloak, this white cloak. So she's all summonered out and stuff. She has like a hood and everything. She's all get up, and she's dressed very nicely and very pretty, apparently. And she's like, hey, sorry I'm late. And she takes off her robe, I think. No, they have more discussions. She takes off her robe. Things get hot and heavy. No, wait, before that. Sorry. Let's go before that. So, they decide, okay, it's still nighttime. And they're like, you know what? Let's go. Let's just go somewhere. So they take the boat and they go, I don't know which direction they go. I can't quite remember. Wow. Look, wow. So they're sailing off in some direction, and the wind is picking up quite a bit. But it's not, it seems fine, right? It seems all right for right now. So like, hey, let's go down in the thing. So they're outside on the vehicle. So there's an inside and an outside. So they go inside, and there's like a bunch of beds and a big bed. So they moved everything and put the big bed in there. And things get hot and heavy, and they lose track of time, and they completely forget that their boat was still going. Like, they didn't set anchor or anything like that. And so it's like hours and hours later. You know, and they're laying in bed, and they're being cutesy and stuff, and talking about, like, you know, like, oh, I've missed you so much, babe. Oh, my God. Oh. That type of stuff. I can't quite remember the details. I think there was something significant that they talk about while they're laying in bed. Una says that how she's so happy. How she's been waiting for this. She's been working for this. Oh, and Titus, he feels a little weird too. Because the past couple days, since he's seen Una for the first time in a while, he feels like an outsider. Because he just sees that Una, she's just so different. Waka, not so different. Lulu, kind of different. And then Riku, completely different. Almost everyone is like completely different from what he remembers. So he feels like an outsider. And honestly, like he kind of feels like this weird thing where he's afraid for Una, because the person who he remembers, she's not the same person. And he's like worried, especially about the way she dresses and stuff. And then all of a sudden he's like, why am I even thinking about that? He thinks to himself, and he's like, that shouldn't even matter at all. And he tries to reassure himself about these things, and Una notices, and people notice, and they ask him, are you okay? He's like, yeah, and stuff like that. And they're laying in bed, and I think they say something significant. Can't quite remember. I wish I could remember the whole conversation with that one guy, because what I said about him knowing that Tidus is all this stuff, there's actually something else very, very important that like opened my eyes and didn't even realize something about the world of Final Fantasy X that they say in this book. I can't remember. But anyways, I can't remember what they were saying in bed. Yuna, all of a sudden, they fall asleep, right? So they did their thing. They were laying in bed being cutesy, and they fall asleep. It's a few hours later. Tidus wakes up to Yuna getting out of bed, and she's already all dressed. And it's dark out, and she's like, she just puts her hand on him. She's like, "Hey, don't worry, just lay down. I'll be back." She goes out onto the deck of the ship, and then he hears a loud crash, and he gets up all frantically. He goes out there, like gets dressed real quick, goes out there, and he notices that Yuna fell over because the wind was so strong, and one of the bows got her. And it wasn't anything serious or anything like that, because she just fell. That's all it was, apparently. And he's like, "Ha, you okay?" Something along the lines, and she's just laughing. She's like, "Oh, don't make fun of me," or whatever, like that. Something like that. Man, where's the translation for this? In that link? It might not be all in that one link. Oh, wait, no, that's just the overview. Yeah, that's just the overview. That's right. So that's so the story itself, let me think. That's right. That's the overview page. Translation. There we go. Now this is a French to English translation. So it's translated from Japanese to French and from French to English. This is the one. My bad. So copy. Put this up here. There we go. There's the story. And actually, there's more translations out there. This is one of the ones I was reading. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, it's that's a good read, especially if you're really wanting to, because it's interesting, isn't it? I think so. I think all of this stuff was pretty interesting. I was like, dude, I love 10's universe. It's one of my apart from 7 and 6, it's 10 in my opinion, just me in general. It's so well thought out, and it's got rules, right? Yeah. Yes, this is great. And you know what? I'm going to leave off with... do you want me to finish it? Or do you want me to leave you the reading? And if this thing, I think if you let me tell you a little bit about the rest of the story and leave out a few things, I think... Okay. Completely finish? I'll do whatever I remember. But there's more details that I'm not giving you because I can't remember. So it's storming out. Yuna fell. He comes out. They laugh about it. But there's a big storm going on. He's like, "All right, let's do this. We're going to tackle the storm." And it's getting worse and worse. And during this time, Riku, Pain, and everyone on the island were like, where's Yuna? Where's Tidus? Where are they? And they're freaking out. The people of Besaid are freaking out about Yuna, like really fucking freaking out. And so the Gullwings take it upon themselves to use the ship, the Celsius, to fly around the island. But the engines break down. The reason why is because they've been floating this whole time. They didn't park it. They didn't set it. So they've been flying for days without turning the ship off, I guess. And apparently that's a thing. But the ship breaks down temporarily. And so they can't search for them in the storm. During the storm, Titus and Yuna are out at sea, and it's pretty treacherous. They're pretty deep out in sea. Big waves crash, and they end up going into a whirlwind in the ocean. So the ship and them get sucked into the whirlwind. Some weird things happen where I think it's Titus. He has his own like personal journey, and I can't quite remember the details of it. I'm pretty sure Yuna does the same thing as well. Some important things are said and discussed among themselves about something. I'm not going to say what. I also can't quite remember exactly what it was. The next morning comes, and, you know, what is it? Oh, dang it, I can't quite remember. I think what it is, Yuna finds Titus out in the ocean with the ship, and she saves him somehow. I think I'm getting that detail wrong. Pretty sure I am, actually. She's out at sea, saves him. I'm just going to skip to the island, because I can't... some parts of the book, after that, it goes back to the events 1,000 years ago, Bavel, Zanuck, and War, between the love triangle thing going on. I couldn't tell you much about it. So, go back to Titus and Yuna, they're on an island, and this is where there's something that happens, like, in their personal journey that's pretty significant. I can't quite remember what it is, like I said already, but just repeating myself at this point. Fuck. What happens? I guess I'm just gonna go straight to like the big one. There's some things that happens in between. So Titus finds a blitzball, and he's been seeing these around, and he's been interacting with these blitzballs. Like around just before, even in Besaid, he saw blitzballs and he was interacting with them, blah blah blah. But he finds a blitzball on this deserted island, and it looks like Besaid, but it's not. It's absolutely not. He's like, kind of looks like Besaid. He's like, oh, weird. He finds a blitzball, and he kicks it, and the blitzball explodes. So back 1,000 years ago, and this was mentioned in that story when it goes back 1,000 years ago. These blitzballs were used as like something for the war, because blitzball was culturally just everyone's favorite fucking thing in the world, and they used blitzballs to use that against their enemies, I guess. I don't know. But this is an old one, 1,000-year-old bomb that Titus ended up kicking. Oh my god, that's fucked up. I know, right? Titus is killed. Titus dies. Like, officially dies. Right? Yuna finds... Okay, I don't know about this detail. This detail has been argued. Oh my god, that's fucked up. I know, right? This detail has been argued. Yuna... And I don't know if I believe this at all. I think the translation, it must be somebody fucking with us. But Yuna finds his dismembered body parts all over the place. Something happens to Yuna to the point where she kind of like just snaps in her head. And she goes to this ethereal realm. Like in her mind. And she's confronted by something. I can't quite remember exactly what. And she then like discovers like the ability to beckon, to call something back from light, from death. And remember, in the will, there was a beckoning. And see, there's this ties into that will, because if you know that story and you watch that will part, you're like, wait a second, things start falling into place. She learned this entity. So I think the entity, like, I don't know if it teaches her or she discovers it. I'm pretty sure she just discovers the ability to beckon things back to life. And so she has a discussion with this entity. I don't know, you know what? I think this entity is the thing that helps her beckon Titus back to life. But it's one of those things where there's a caveat to it. He's not really alive in some sense. So there's a rule to this. He can, quote unquote, stay alive, but if he ever finds out that he's actually dead, then he ends up disappearing. Whoa. Yeah, and so when you 100% complete Final Fantasy X-2, you have that scene with Titus and Yuna at the beach from 3 days prior, right? Well, there's another cutscene. Remember that cutscene when they're in Zanarkand in the game, and Yuna pushes Titus off, and he falls in the water, and they're laughing, and then all of a sudden you get this weird feeling that she's kind of depressed about something. She's like, I hope you're really real. The events, so that, yeah, the cherish me, yep. So that part, so this is how it goes. Titus and Yuna reunite on the beach, and then this story I've been telling you happens days after Titus has come back. And then chronologically, that scene, the cherish me part, is after the events of the poem of 2.5, 10.2.5. That's after the events. So when they push up, and she says, watch that scene over again. And yeah, I mean, even in 10.2, they're acknowledging the fact that, you know, this isn't truly a happy ending, really, and we don't know that yet, because you're always confused on why the absolute 100% completed scene, because, you know, that scene before on the beach, it's all like high fidelity graphics, but then the ending scene, the absolute 100%, is just, you know, just standard in-game graphics scene, and she's all kind of in this twinge of depression and uncertainty. It always threw you off, right? When you read this story, that really puts into perspective that she, at that point in time, Titus had died in days. Because oh, also, by the way, but yeah, that's the big part. Let me go back. That man that was curious, that was weird, that offended Titus, and he knew everything about Titus and the fact that he was really dead, and that the Aeons, he knew specifically the Bahamut Aeon faith was the one who he belonged to specifically, and then not really specifically, but you know what I mean. He had interactions with him. He knew that. He knew about Micah. He knew about Seymour and Jiskel. He knew about like everything. Well, it turns out that he was an unsent from 1,000 years ago. So he was one of the people in that love triangle. And the thing is, in that love triangle, he was trying to woo Yuna. The guy from 1,000 years ago who was an unsent, he tried to woo Yuna and try to compete with Titus. I left that part out because I just remembered it now. Something along those lines. And so, that happens. They end up fixing the Celsius, and they look for them, and that's how they find Yuna and Titus. But by that time, Yuna had already beckoned Titus back to life. Wow, what a douche! Why he got to be like that? It's kind of weird because it ends with him, that guy. The last time you see him, it's like it's kind of like an echo of like the past for him. It's not. He had intentions, but also things that he can't specifically control about himself. So he wanted to, I don't know. He wanted to try to. It's not like he wanted to, but echoes of the past from his love triangle from 1,000 years ago. It just so happened to play out that way with Yuna and Titus and him, and how he tried to intervene. I think actually that he is the one who fixed the Celsius. Because he had knowledge of the engines, and he pointed out that the Albed know fucking nothing about the engines, because he looked at it like, you guys don't know what you're doing, do you? It's like one of those deals, and said that there's an important detail. So he told Riku and brother about the origins of the name Albed. And really, they used to be called something else entirely. The only reason why they're called Albed is because this subsection of the people known as Albed back in the day, they weren't called Albed. This subsection was ran by this man named Albeda or something like that, or Albedai, and they shortened it to Albed for his people. Dude, this is fascinating. Thank you for explaining this. It's pretty cool, I know. So yeah, that happened, and yeah, he ends up, I don't know, being like, I don't know what it is. He's not sent, I don't think. He's like he like unbeckoned himself, which is strange, and that's the unknown part. Like, this story doesn't give you all the answers. But yeah, the story ends with with Yuna pushing Titus off the ledge, and he goes into the water at Zanarkand, and she has that uncertain look. You know, cherish me. Is this really real? Are you real? Will this end up going good? And then that will happens. The audio drama. And then the events. I'm telling you, listen to that audio drama again after you read this poem. And that audio drama will have a completely different type of gravity for you. I need a smoke after that one. That was fucking ridiculous. But mind you, there's multiple translations out there. And thank you for listening, actually. But there's multiple translations out there, so after you read one, read a different one. If you can find them. And they're not hidden, but they're somewhere deep in the web. It's strange, like, it's super strange. You cannot find the official book, Japanese book. No, never mind. Yeah, you can. You can buy it on eBay. You can actually get it off eBay, and I was thinking about it, but I don't know how to read kanji. Haha, you earned a smoke. There's a lot of cooler details in there, though. Worth a read. Oh, and then watching the audio drama again. Oh my goodness. You make me want to do that. I want to read it. Because I haven't listened to the audio drama since... And that was like some months ago. I don't even know exactly when that was. Because I listened to it on YouTube. But then there's other people who've made videos about the poem too, so you could watch those after you read the poem and just try to gauge yourself. Since there's no actual real concrete translate, just get a pool of ideas and try to just carve out your own thing of what you think happened. You know, there's some bullshit thrown in there. There's some people who have, like, made up shit. Like, I'm talking about the part where Yuna finds Tidus's dismembered body everywhere in thousands of pieces and blood like, there's some disputes about a few things here and there. I need to do last mission too. Don't know what happens there either. I can't remember quite either. All it really is it's after the events. Wait. I might have fucked up by saying... Okay, so the last mission, that's after the events of the poem. And after the events of 10-2's final 100% ending. That lower cutscene res thing. Pushing off. Lake. Laughing. Sanderkin. Uncertainty. Sadness. That last mission takes place after that. So that's, yeah. That's the furthest we've ever played after the events of 10-2, is last mission. It's a much different game. It's more like a mobile game. It feels like a mobile game. And it's like tiers of doing a tower. Basically, it's battling, doing stuff. And that's pretty much all it is, until you reach the end. And it's weird. The graphics are weird. You know, like the character models are strange. The voice acting is it's modern, so it's not the voice acting from the original voice actors. You know, 15 plus years ago, almost 20 years ago. Fucking A. So like Haley Burgess and James Arnold Taylor, but even though he's not in that part of the game, Tara Strong is Riku. It's them in 2014 voice acting those lines. Makes you feel old, I know. I don't know who voiced Pain. I don't know. Yeah. One of my favorite Final Fantasies came out over 20 years ago. Final Fantasy 7. And then Final Fantasy 10 came out in 2001, so... But 9 came out in 2000. FF9. Yeah. Old. Yeah, there's some... The smaller details that I'm missing out on right now in that poem has to do with the world building. Like the Albed thing I was telling you about. And then the guy, he knows so much about what happened 20 years ago now. I feel old, man. I was 12 when I first played 10. Yeah, I must have been... How old was I? I must have been like 9 or 10. Yeah, something like that. 9-ish, I think. Back then I wasn't... Yeah, you know, I did play it, but I didn't get, like, super into it. Like, I don't think I beat it until, like, a few years later. 2 years later or something like that. Maybe a year. It took me a while. And then 10-2 came out, I was like, oh my god! And then I was like, oh... And then I was like, oh my god again! Because I realized it's not nearly as bad as people say it is. First time playing it, you're like, oh, this is not what I wanted. You know? And then you just get used to it, and you're like, you know what? This game is actually pretty decent. I've had conversations with people about 10-2. They hate it every single time. It's like, well, let me talk about this. And they're always like, you are defending that game. I'm like, yeah, dude, the combat, the battle system is fucking amazing. The leveling up system, the classes, you know, the just spheres and stuff, the different grids you can have to give you different abilities. It's pretty fucking awesome, actually. I always get laughed at. It's like, oh, and I'm like, all right, man. I'm not saying the story is amazing. I'm not. It's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying at all. Definitely don't hate it, or I wouldn't be playing it. Yeah, me too. You know, I haven't played it in years, though, so... Same thing, I have issues, but I'll still play it. Oh, I think one of the things, right when Yuna beckoned Tidus back to life after he died, I think there was a thought that ran across her head. And I think that's there's in the audio drama, the will, 2 years after 10-2, Yuna tells Tidus, I don't love you anymore. I've fallen in love with somebody else. I can't quite put my finger on it. So it's, for me at least, I've come to two conclusions, and this can always change after I put more thought into it. The story isn't that bad at all. It's a pop star Yuna thing that was weird, irrelevant shifts. It was all strange. There's one of two things that can happen with that whole thing about her saying to Tidus that she loves somebody else. So I think no matter what, on each side, or was it? Let me just think. Each point that I have, the two things that I have, both of them have something in common. Is that Yuna actually does love Tidus more than anything. And she's just saying that. And the differences is that on one side, it could be that she maybe beckoned a child that was from her and Tidus. Because there was a thought that came across her head, I don't know if we would ever be able to have children if I beckoned you. And all this stuff before she even beckoned him. So she was just wondering about that. So that's the thing that's unknown, really. So this is just my theory. So that maybe she might have beckoned a child into existence that was the child of her and Tidus's. Or the person that she said, and that's why she says that she loves somebody else. That's the reason why she's saying that. Or is that she is trying the entity that confronted her and helped her beckon Tidus back. I think what's going on is that she's trying to woo that entity. Not seriously at all. But what she has to do is that she has to put her whole heart in it, because this is an entity. It's not a physical thing. This thing is like, it can feel your feelings. So she really has to love this thing. Whatever it is, whatever it looks like. She really has to. In order to try to... what my theory is that to ultimately save Tidus. So what she has to do is that she has to intentionally lose love in Tidus. Not love him. Force herself to not love him. And force herself to love this entity. To take advantage of this entity. To make sure that she can try to do something to help save Tidus. To truly save Tidus again. Those are my theories. And I don't know about the child thing. The child thing, about her beckoning a child, I have no ultimate goal for that thing, really. But the entity might have something to do with it. I haven't thought about it entirely. But the other one, I think is more, I put more thought into that one, obviously. Those are theories, though. We'll be very busy looking into this now. Thanks, RJ. There's not a lot out there. There's not. There's just not a lot out there. It's like trying to find any information on that thing is like compared to trying to find the earliest like evidence of man on of intelligent men on Earth, intelligent humans on Earth. Like, how many thousands of years ago was it really? 13,600 years ago? 48,600 years ago? It's like that hard. It's like trying to find any info on this shit. It's like, what the fuck? It's like so hard. But good luck, and let me know if you find anything awesome. Let me go back to playing 14. I haven't played this in much. It's been a while. I actually have to go smoke. I haven't had a cigarette yet. You got me talking fucking Final Fantasy. Will do. It's amazing, isn't it? It's an amazing... I don't get it, too. A lot of people bash on it, and a lot of people in Japan even, they shunned it. And I don't even know what Kazushige Nojima truly feels about it, but he did write it. That is a fact. And you know, he's still working at Square, but he has his own subdivision. Like, he's a mastermind over at Square Enix. He helps the Enix side and the Square side, and third-party stuff too. It's my favorite for a reason. What, 10-2 or the book? Wait, what? The book. Wait, what? I'm so confused. What, 10-2 or the book? Japan shunned. Oh, yeah. In Japan, the book was released, and it was shunned. Basically, everyone was like, what the fuck is this? Like, fans from 10 and 10-2 were like, what the fuck? And sure, it might seem like a really weird thing, because, you know, there's no action going on. It's just a big drama thing. It's like a soap opera segment of Final Fantasy X. And it takes place over like 3 or 4 days. And it goes between the events of Tidus and Yuna 1,000 years ago, and then when they cut back to the island, like between Riku and the Gullwings, or Besaid, the villagers, people who live there. So hard to be happy when they can't leave well enough alone. I know. No, I love Japan, but I don't like their... oh, shit. I love everything about Japan except for their opinion about this book. Honestly, I really want it to be translated. It's probably bad. It probably really is bad. Like, everything that's said and stuff and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know that. It might actually be bad, and the translations are just trying to do it justice. But the things that happen, obviously, they definitely happen. I'm talking like dialogue between characters and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm gonna be right back. So, yeah. Oh my goodness, I'm cold. Yeah, so, yeah, in my opinion, ever since that audio drama came out in that HD remaster, they have to follow up. You know, if you have the knowledge of what happened in that book, and then re-listening to that, you know deep in your gut they have to follow that up. Because now, since everything's being beckoned, the greatest threat to the planet is Seymour, because Seymour is back. They didn't mention his name, but in the audio drama, it's narrated that everyone kind of looks at each other without saying anything, and their eyes widen, because they say, like, well, who else could be, like, what else could, you know, like, everything is a disaster. All these dead things. Sin is back. What's worse than sin? And they realize, oh shit, without saying it, they're thinking about Seymour. And Seymour really is the greatest threat. You know, why can I not choose anything right now? Options. Oh, okay, jeez. That was... Jesus. But yeah. Seymour was a crazy person. So, wait, if Sin is back, does that mean Yevon is too? Actually, yeah. Technically, yeah. Maybe that's what they were talking about, but in my opinion, I think it would be Seymour. I think Seymour would be the best villain. Yevon, you don't know shit about him. He's just a thing. It would be great to learn more about him. And then Sin, you know, just an extension of Yevon, really. So, I mean, I didn't really even consider that. Yeah, if Sin's back, definitely Yevon is. Well, also now, would the Faith be back? Because they would have to get all the Faith again. Well, someone would have to be a summoner. If they were going to try the same method they did last time. Shit. More shit to think about. God dang. I need swarms. Swarms. I was recently playing the No Sphere Grid for 10, and there's other things that they can touch on in 10.3. Certain things about the world and stuff. Hold on, keep getting vibrations. Group chat. What's going on here? I know, right? I wanted a prequel about the Zanuck and Bavel war and the story of Yevon and Unalesca, because that whole premise is shifty as fuck. Yeah, it is. Like, it's so much different from 10. It could be its own independent thing, yeah. Why not? I mean, it's got Unalesca, obviously, something familiar, but aesthetically, it'd just be so different. It'd be some familiarity here and there, but really just so much different. Because the whole like sin was created to fight the war, but what made the first sin? It was Yu Yevon summoning. Pretty sure. Also, did it really destroy Anakin, or did the war do that? There are a lot of questions that could go unanswered. Yeah, maybe Sin was blamed for it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was Vegnagun. Maybe it was the Machina. Maybe it was the summoners who destroyed everything with their aeons. Maybe oh yeah, and aeons, they were called something else entirely. They weren't known as aeons back then. I think. Pretty sure. Summoning what, though? Like, what did Yu Yevon make the first sin out of? I think himself, and he summoned himself. And the Yu Yevon can summon the sin as armor. I'm pretty sure. Like, he is his own faith and summoner.